Welcome back. So let's check in first where we left off after the second video in the Affinity Publishing series that I'm doing. Now, today's video is number 3, and we're focusing in on your basic styles. So, in the last video, we placed or pasted in our document, our manuscript. Now, you may notice if you looked carefully at the last one, these were not in the last one. I went back to my manuscript and I added in all the different chapters and I added in a chapter title. I did this because my manuscript didn't show those and I had it as one continuous document. And so, anyway, I did that. That's why this looks a little different. So the other thing that I did off camera was I had a problem. I'll go down this next one. I had a problem where my two headers, which I have on opacity, were not matching up. This one was much lighter than that one. So I created over here off your right, I created a style called header under character, and I entered the information into it, and if I'll click on one here, as you can see, the opacity is 58%. So, and I'll click on this one, and the opacity is 58%. And I'll click on one of the footers, and the opacity is at 58%. So I applied this header style to this header, and both of the footers. And that made them all have the same opacity and look correct. So I did that because for whatever reason it wasn't taking on my master at the time. So what are styles and why do we use them? So styles are making decisions about this this chapter 1 line, the field cast line, and the content, your main content. We're making a decision. What font do we want? What is it going to look like? How is it going to be handled? And we do that with a style that we apply to what we're doing. This way, when you move through your finished novel, all of the chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4s, they'll all be identical. They'll have the same spacing, they'll have the same font, they will have the same spacing to the chapter title. So everything will be the same because we will apply a style to each of these, and it will carry through your entire book. And so consistency is the first reason for using a style. The second reason is that styles make it easier to make changes to your formatting in your book. So a style doesn't change the content of your book, it changes the appearance of your book. So I'm doing this as a 6x9 for a hardcover. If I wanted to go down to an 8x5.5, I could resize my styles and get there almost, within an hour or two. I'd have a completely formatted second version, second edition. So that's what these do for you. I'm not going to be covering ebooks. And the reason I'm not covering ebooks here is, number one, I'm not producing ebooks. And number two, ebooks want to push the type around on the device of the person reading. So they have different rules in terms of formatting. And when you're going to format an ebook or set it up for the entity who is selling those copies, then you have to follow their rather strict guidelines. And so I'm just not covering that here. There are other resources that you can use to find out how to do that. Um, so what we're going to deal with today is I've talked about where we picked up from the last video, where in the last video we learned how to set up your text boxes. So the very first thing I want you to do is to save. Go over here to your file, save as, and as you notice, this one is saying BugMage working, which is different from the file I showed you last time. I'm going to go in and add my tag, because I have tags on my stuff. And the reason that you are saving is you're saving your work at this point in the work. And you saw it says working up here. This is a working document, so I can take the pressure off myself if I make mistakes, because I'm learning Affinity. I've known other typesetting programs, so I'm familiar with the typesetting, but this is a program that is still new to me, so I'm going to make mistakes. It's part of life. So this takes the pressure off. I know I have it saved in this condition, and I'll show you over here on my desktop. This is the one I'm using open right now, but I have this one down here that is pristine. So I'm not going to be altering that one at this point. I'm going to be altering this one. And I want to say that really the styles we're looking at are basic styles today for almost any book. I'm not going to show you the more sort of advanced stuff. I'll do that in another video for you. And by advanced stuff, I mean how to create quotes, how to create drop caps, how to create block indents, flashbacks, and other kinds of changes, scene breaks, things like that. And if you're doing a nonfiction book or a book that has, say, lists in it and things like that, that's not going to be in this particular video. When you get into nonfiction or textbook like formatting, it gets a lot more complicated. You can and should still use styles, but you kind of want to advance into those as you learn your basics first, and then you mess around with them and learn what you need for your application of your particular book. So today we're going to look at this book as a standard book, and with a basic text blocks content and a chapter header and a title. And those three elements are really what we're going to focus in on. So you're going to go off here to your right, and if you're using Affinity Publisher 2, which I am, it'll look like this. I am on a Mac, so it may be handled slightly differently. I don't know. I don't have a PC, so I have no way to kind of look at the two. But you'll notice you have this section here that says layers, and then this section says character, and this one says paragraph, and this one says text styles. So I'm in text styles, and when you imported your manuscript, you imported whatever styles were used in the creation of that manuscript file. So your content is going to look different than this. I imported without using style out of Microsoft Word, so I imported very little over, and I have cleaned up. The first thing I encourage you to do is to clean up your, I'll go over here and show you the one on my other document. Let's open that. This is what your text styles likely looks like, and this is what it looks like on the pristine version that I had not doctored yet. So you'll want to go into your text styles, leave the no style okay, go to one of these, click on it, and oh, I have to do that differently, sorry. So you want to click on it with your mouse, right click on your mouse, and if you go down here, you say where it allows you to delete it. So I'm going to encourage you to do that. I'm not going to do it on this document so that I can leave it pristine. Save, yes, we'll save that. Okay. Where did it go? Don't we love that? All right, so I'm going back to BugMage working, and I'm going to remove that. Okay, so I cleaned out everything except for the two nose styles and my header, which I had created for my headers here in order to clean up my opacity. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to create a style called initial caps. And we're going to create this one as a character. And so we're going to go into here and we're going to create new. I'm not inheriting from anything. I'm not inheriting from header 1. I'm not. So I'm going to call this initial cap. Now this style is going to tell the program how I want it to handle initials. And so we'll go into style, it says initial cap. Is it based on header? And I'm going to say no. Next style, no style. And next level, okay. So I want to go to color and decorations with changing nothing. So I'm checking these, and you should check when you're doing them to make sure that nothing has kind of carried over. As you saw, this initially said it was learning from header 1, which header 1 is gone, but it was still learning from that. So you're going to go down and check these and make sure nothing else has been sort of imported. And I'm really interested in capitalization, and I'm interested in making this all caps. I want my capital letter to be all caps. And so that's what the style said. It says base plus next, no style, all caps. Okay, and we're going to click on that. So the next style, so we'll go over here and look so you can see. So you can see I have initial cap here. So you're going to be naming each of these the name that works for you. And in fact, do I want to make that a based on, oh, well, we don't have that yet. Okay, so you want to make it so that it makes sense to how you think. And for me, initial cap is fine. So the next one we're going to work on is going to be a paragraph. And so we'll go in here and we're going to create new. All right, this style, I'm going to call it content. And I'm calling it that because it's going to be my primary text throughout the book. So the style name is content, and it's based on no style. And the next one is same style's fine. All right, so we're going to go to font, and we're going to look at your font family. So this is, they're asking you for your font. I want Palatino, and the font style I want is regular. I'm not going to adjust the font weight or width, and it's not italic. The font size, they're going to give you a list, and I'm not going to choose that. I'm choosing to tell it 10.5 because it's not in the list. And this is the font size that I'm drawing from the sample hardcover that I showed in the very first video on prepping for formatting. So it's from a sample, this 10.5. Color and decorations, no change. Position, no change. Language, no change. Optical alignment, no change. Typography, we'll go down here, no change. Alternance, again, nothing. Variance, nothing. Figures, nothing. Capitals, let's take a look. I don't think I need anything in capitals. Paragraph, so my content alignment is justified, last line left. So the last line left, it means that your bulk text is justified, which means it's going to line up with the outside margins on your left and right side. And the last line, it will line up on your left only, and whatever's left over will be left over. So I'm going to click on that. The leading, the default, I don't want to use. I want to use percentage of height. So in my sample hardcover that we looked at, the leading was at 14. So I'm going to go to 140 and see how that looks. That should be around 14%. So the left indent, let's see. Left indent, no. So first line indent, we're going to go to 1/4 of an inch. So you see this is done by inch. So 1/4 of an inch is 0.25. And then we're going to look at all these. I don't think I want to change these others. So when you type something in here, you're forcing this instruction over whatever is defaulted in the system. So as we go through this, you'll know there are certain things that I am telling the program I want it to do. I don't want space before or after my paragraphs or words or anything like that. I don't want space between. You may have some of these that get activated based on what you are doing, but I don't. So spacing is kind of a big one. And so we want to make sure that we have the justified last line on the left. And that's pretty much it. We did the leading and we did the first line indent. So let's go down to justification. And let's see what it's showing. So, you know, it sounds like your justification would be handled here, but it's actually handled on the other page, on the spacing, which is kind of strange. So we'll go to flow. And flow, we're going to disengage, keep with the, so we want to make sure that's disengaged. We want to prevent orphaned first lines. We don't want to keep the paragraph together. And I'm clicking on these because I'm making a choice. And I want the computer to note that I'm making a choice. So I want to have prevent orphaned and prevent widowed lines. And that I do want to check on this one. So we're going to go down to, I don't have any bullets and numbering. We are going to go to hyphenation. Now, as you notice, it's inherited some information here. That's why I said you really need to check. I am selecting auto hyphenation. Now, hyphenation is controversial, and you'll hear people with different opinions. In the hardcover that I was using for to look at in my preparations here, they had hyphenation. That's a top quality traditional publisher, and hyphenation is common to top quality traditional publishers, but they make selections around it. So what you want to consider, there are a few things. So first of all, you want to consider how wide your margins are. So how big is your text block? So the smaller the text block or the more narrow, such as with a newspaper or a magazine, where it has columns, the more hyphenation becomes a strong concern. And the reason of that is that you're going to have the defaults in the machine are going to have less room to make their adjustments. So you're more likely to have spacing problems. And so the second piece you want to be thinking about is what the font looks like and the size of your font. So the smaller your font size, the less hyphenation becomes a problem. And the reason is that you're getting more words per line, and there's usually more gap space for the computer to play with and adjust in, and you're not getting these forced, strange results. So if your text block is narrow, but your font is small, you're probably going to be okay with auto hyphenation or no hyphenation at all. You could play with that. But as you start to wander into larger fonts and smaller width, then you probably want to have your hyphenation going. And this is so that you don't end up with a condition that typesetters call gaps in the teeth, which is where the gaps between your words start to get really large and weird, and they make your type look wrong. So for the reader, this is all aiming at an aesthetic on the page as well as reader comfort. For the reader, it will look correct. So all of the big publishing houses are trying to become invisible to the reader so the reader sees and feels comfortable with the quality of the text. They're used to it. It looks correct. It feels correct. And the quality of the text is not going to pop the reader out of their read. So what I'm doing here is I'm using a 10.5 font, and I'm using a 14-point leading in a standard book size. And I have looked at the hardcover version of exactly this, and they are using hyphenations. But they're not just using open hyphenations. The other piece you need to consider here is if you are writing or have a manuscript with really long words in it, then you become a problem for the typesetter. Say that you did a book that has pharmaceutical terms in it or something. That can be, 20, 30 letter word. And if you don't allow hyphenation, you could end up with, massive gaps in your line, and they can look awful. So you want to be aware of what direction you're going to give the computer around your hyphenation. So I'm not quite sure what minimum score means, but minimum word length is, I'm going to say 6. I don't know where that 5 came from. So what I'm saying is don't hyphenate words that are under 6 characters long. So that tells the computer that if a word is 6 characters, you're not going to hyphenate it. Minimum prefix, again, I'm not sure what that is, so I'm going to not use it. Oh, maximum consecutive hyphens. All right, so I'm going to say that per page, I don't want to see a whole running side of hyphens. So I'm going to say 3. I'm going to come back. I added it the wrong spot. Maximum word length. So we're going to maximum consecutive hyphens, and we're going to say 3. And there you go. So I've told the computer that I want to use auto hyphenation, but it has constraints. And so I'll see if these constraints are enough when I'm doing the actual manipulation. For the moment, I'll eliminate this. So we'll go to, what is it saying? Let's go to 0, character 0. So I'm going to make sure my drop caps are not enabled. And so I'm going to go here and make sure it's not enabled. I'm going to go down to initial word, and I make sure that it's not enabled. And I'm going to go to 0. And I don't know what that is offering me here. Oh, okay, in characters. So I'm not going to make a choice on that for the moment. All right, so we have used all of these up that we need to be concerned with our content. So I'm going to say okay. So the next one we're going to talk about is doing the chapter title, which is this, and the chapter number, which is this. And so we're going to do the chapter title first, which is this, and we're going to base it on no style. So let's see here. Let's go to no style, or do we want to do it here? Say no style. All right, I'm going to go to character, and I'm going to create a new style, and I'm going to call this chapter title, and I'm going to base it on no style. Okay, and the next style is no style. All right, this is not a paragraph, but I think it does fall under paragraph, but I had it under character. We'll just leave it under character for the moment, or should I go ahead and I'm going to put it under paragraph, and it just gives you different options. So we'll switch back and I'll show you what it does. So if it's a character, it's going to give you these options. If it's a paragraph, it's going to give you twice as many. So we'll make this under paragraph. But it's not borrowing from an existing style that I've already talked about. All right, so we'll go to font. And you want to choose a font. So for the purposes of this, I've got so many gazillion fonts. Let me find a font that would look good. So we already talked about in one of my other videos that you're going to have fonts that you buy for your book. And you may want to create a file that is just the fonts that you own the right to use. So for this particular, I'm going to go down to, I know where I'm going. I'm not using this actually for my book. I'll be using the other one. I'm going to go to Prita. Okay. I like Prita. And the font style, I'm going to we'll use bold. And it's not italic, but the font size, I'm going to go to, this is the chapter title. I'm going to go to 24 point. Let's go down here. And That looks good. All right. Color and decorations, no. Position, no kerning. So kerning is where you adjust the spacing between the letters. We're not going to adjust anything here. Language, alternate variant. And again, because you're using, let's set figures, no change. These should all be no change. You want to check. Force first to 0. Spacing is where we're going to get there. All right, so spacing alignment, I'm going to make it centered. Leading has no change on this one. And force the first line indent here, we're going to force that to 0. And like I said, it will, if you leave it kind of what it's posted as, it can get a little squirrely on you. Any of these programs can. So we're going to skip down out of that. And justification, there should be no change. Flow. We'll just not need that. We don't need hyphenation. And we're not using drop caps in this. And initial words. Okay. Decorations. Okay. That should give us that one. So when we go back over here and we look at our styles, we're going to come back over. You can see I have initial cap, I have content, and I have chapter title, and they've put it in Prida, which is kind of interesting. So we're going to go ahead and do another one. So we're going to click on this, and we're going to create a style based on chapter title. So I'm going to click on that, and we're going to call this one chapter number. All right, and it's based on chapter title, and should we same style? We'll just leave it there. And it's showing up as a paragraph again. And we're going to go to font. Font family, no change. So if you want to change your font, you would do it here. So we're actually doing Prida. And font style, again, we're doing bold. And so I'm forcing these. We want to go to, all these should be the same, so we'll just look through them and make sure they're not doing anything funny. All right, so we're going to go down to spacing, and the alignment, we want this to be centered. Now we're going to go down here to where it says space before. So the space before they're talking about is this space. What's before your chapter number. So my chapter number's here. So the space before is here. And I want to change that. And I'm going to go to 220. To give myself a fixed space before this starts. So we're going to come down here, no space after. All right. Okay. And so we're going to go down to flow, and we're going to start next odd page. Next odd page. So what you're telling the computer here, or the program, is that all of your chapters are going to start on the right side odd page. Everything else is not applicable here. So this is important. All of your chapters on good books start on the odd page, numbered page, so that when the reader is looking at the book, that is your lead page. That is your most expensive real estate. The even page on this side, so the even page is, this is here, if you're looking over here, is the back side of the front page. So we try not to start any chapters on that page. Okay, so that should give us everything we need. No change, initial words, decorations, and export tags. Okay, so we're going to say okay. So now we have done several styles here. So if you look, you can see we have a chapter number, chapter title, content, no style, which means there's nothing there. A header, this was for my header up here, and an initial cap. So we've got all those instructions have been given to the computer. So the next thing you want to do is, let's see if I can highlight. Come on. There we go. All right. So this is a chapter number. So I'm going to apply that. Now you're going to say, where'd it go? And it went down here. And the issue becomes when you import your text over, there is often some kind of, let me move this over so you can see it. There's often some kind of content left. So you're going to try to remove that content. All right, and that should bring us up to the right page. Let's try here. Okay, now that just moved me up a page because there was something, an artifact was left over from your Microsoft Word or your Scrivener or something like that. Now I didn't see where it gave me, let me look at this. Let's look. Position, kerning, no, let's look at spacing. Center, left indent, right indent. Space before, so it didn't seem to apply my 220 points. Wonder why. So I'll check on that. So we'll go to the next one and we're going to apply the chapter title. This one should have been smaller. So chapter number, center, leading, font, pre-to-all font size. See, it's showing no change. So let's go down to, say, 12 point on that. All right, that's closer, but I'm still not getting the spacing that should be there to the top of the page. So I'll come back in again and let's see if we can get it to force that spacing. Then that should be spaced before. So I should have 220 points before this chapter number, and that should be what the computer tells it to do, and it's not. Okay, I will figure that out. We'll go ahead and go down to, let's go, oh, there is a select all, and I've forgotten what it is. So I'm going to just take a few pages. Let's see. All right. I want to kind of go down to my next chapter. All right, there's my next chapter. So I'm going to select that. There is a select all that you can do. I haven't had a lot of success with that yet, but I'm going to come over to my content, and I clicked on my content. Now it's giving me spaces in between here, which I don't like and I don't want. So I'm going to solve for that. It's giving me way more than 1/4 of an inch here. I have to solve for that. So I hope I'm clear in showing you why you don't necessarily want to practice on what you think of as your finished work. I'll come back in here and I'll solve these issues. There should be no space between paragraphs. And so I'll come back in and I'll double check my content, and I'll look at space before. See, there's a space after. It shouldn't be there. I didn't add that. So I'll change that, and we'll click on that, and then we'll click on content. Again, let's see if we can get it to change. All right, that tightened that up. So I learned what the problem was for that. So I don't like how deep these indents are. So I'll come back to my content, first line indent. So I'm going to move this over, and I'm going to reduce this. And it's not showing me. So let me okay that. Let me click on one, and then let me click on content. All right, let's see if it moved over. All right, we'll okay that. Now I'm going to take this content. Oh, that isn't what I wanted to do. Undo paragraph style. Content. Okay. Now I highlighted this. I have a tip on content. It didn't adjust where I need that to be. So I need to find out what's going on with that, because the spacing is not doing what I want it to do. So that means that I may have another one of these pieces in here may be operating against this, and I'll need to find it. And this is what happens when you're learning a new program, is that you make errors, that you try to have something be what you think it is, and yet it doesn't quite turn out when you're first trying it out. I'll keep messing with it until I see where that is. So the other thing we want to look here is, you can see I have a hyphen here, a hyphen here, and a hyphen here, and 2 more. So I'll look at those and decide if I want those hyphens or not. If I need to change what I'm agreeing to on my hyphenation. So that's another part that I will clean up. Basically, what I wanted to see here, let me go up here. That's not right. Undo. Okay. Let's see, edit, undo. All right, what's it doing? It's still it's showing stuff here. So it's showing stuff. Okay, so what I wanted it to do was add space above my chapter 1 to move this chapter 1 tighter to this header, or this chapter title, And so I want to adjust how that looks. So I'll keep messing with my version of my test piece, and I'll come back in the next video and we'll talk about adding a style for your scene breaks and how we'll apply the scene start thing that we already did. And so I'll show that to you in the next video, and we'll look at how to incorporate your dividers, and we'll fix up where it's still got that spacing thing going on that I haven't applied the content to yet. So the content will look more like this, but I'm going to correct for my indent, and I will be back with you on the next video. But that shows you where you should start with your styles, is you're starting with what you're using. Now, I'm not particularly liking having both of these in this predefont, so I'll probably come back and change this one. This is all right. It's sort of demonstrating kind of what I want, something fancy, but I don't like the amount of room between here, so I'll adjust that too. And I'll talk to you through how I did it. I'll go ahead and solve it off camera first and come back and show you how you can solve it for your own book. So that's where we are. And that's it for this one.